You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 166.
Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life. Hello and welcome to the Balanced Educator Podcast. As always, we are so happy you are here joining us today. So today we are tackling a very important topic, one that in recent surveys that we've done, also when we are talking to you teachers, our audience, this comes up often. And so to kick this off, I have a question for you. Do you find that your students are often distracted and lack focus? And are you tired of managing off-task students? In today's episode of the Balanced Educator Podcast, I am walking you through a simple and easy lesson plan that you can use in the K-12 classroom that will show you how to explicitly teach your students focus strategies in a systematic and efficient way. And this will make classroom management easier for you too. Just like we can't expect students to learn how to read on their own, we also can't expect them to learn to focus on their own. So listen to this episode that we're about to dive into if you want some concrete teaching strategies to help your students be able to focus on their academic learning, increase their problem-solving skills, and apply self-regulation strategies on their own. Now, before we dive in, we are excited to share with you today's sponsor. Did you know that Canadian educators are highly sought after by top international schools worldwide? Teaching overseas is professionally rewarding and offers an amazing lifestyle rich with culture, social, and travel experiences. Search Associates is the world's largest recruiting agency representing over 800 top international schools in over 120 countries worldwide. Each year, they've helped over 3,000 teachers, counselors, librarians, and specialists secure great jobs in their carefully vetted K-12 international schools, where teachers like you can enjoy small class sizes, motivated students, and high academic standards in a supportive learning environment. Gary McPhee brings over 30 years of teaching and administrative experience in international schools to his role as a senior associate with Search. He started his teaching career in Toronto in 1982 and ventured on his first overseas post in 1988. His international teaching career has taken him and his family to Singapore, Taiwan, Tanzania, Qatar, Canada, and China, first as a teacher, then principal, and international recruiter. He now shares his passion for international teaching with other adventurous educators. If you're interested in learning more on how to become an international educator, join Search Associates' free Facebook group at Search Associates Canada and visit ca.searchassociates.com or email Gary at gmcphee@searchassociates.com. That's GMACPHIE@searchassociates.com. Check out this episode's show notes for the details. Register with Search Associates Canada and receive personalized advice and support throughout your international job search. Adventure awaits. Take the first step. Contact them today. All right, let's dive in. And I want to start today by kind of painting a picture. So, can you relate to this? Sitting down at your teacher desk during your 30-minute or maybe hour prep period to do corrections. Then your phone buzzes and you answer a text. And then you try to refocus on your corrections. Then the teacher next door to you comes by to chat about something that's going on with a student or some new teaching strategy or something like that. Then they leave. You try to refocus on your corrections. Then all of a sudden this idea pops into your head, something you want to do with your students, and you kind of feel this need to get started on it right now before you forget. Next thing you know, preparation period is over and you need to get your students from the gym. You've only corrected 3 papers out of the 25. Not the greatest teacher productivity and focus moment, right? Has that ever happened to you? Because it's definitely happened to me. So we as teachers and adults, we are often distracted and we struggle to focus on one task at a time. Squirrel brain is totally normal. Focus is hard. But with time and effort, many of us have developed strategies or we are currently working on developing them. Hint, hint, I always am, always a work in progress. So many of us have developed strategies to help ourselves remain more focused based on our own personal needs, right? Because we all need different things, strategies to be able to focus. So, for example, in this scenario that I just shared, that has literally happened to me so many times, now I have strategies. So during my prep period, I now put my phone on silent and keep it away from my desk, like not even in reach, like super far away from me. I also close my classroom door during my prep periods so that other teachers just know, I'm working and I'm focusing. And another strategy I've developed in relation to this is to always take my half-hour lunch break in the staff room each day to socialize with my coworkers so that I feel like I'm getting that social time in and I don't need to be socializing during my prep, right? If my coworker wants to talk to me about something or I want to talk to them about something, I can do that during my lunch hour. I have dedicated time to do that, which is very helpful. Another thing I do is I now keep a notepad on my desk so that I can quickly write down any genius classroom ideas that kind of pop into my mind so that I don't forget. And now that the idea is written down, I can bring it to life later. Or sometimes, all of a sudden something like, email this parent just pops into my head. I'll just write it down. And then I stay on task. I stay focused on, those corrections or whatever I'm working on during my prep. Of course, I don't always succeed with all of my focus strategies, but overall, I'm much less distracted and a lot more focused, productive, and organized. It's important to note that I wasn't born with focus strategies, right? And I just mentioned a few of them. I have lots more, but I developed them with time, effort, and consistency. I learned a lot of these strategies from fellow teachers too, or fellow adults, friends, just other people in my life. Of course, learned a lot of focus strategies from Kaylee as well, the co-host of this show. And I'm still always working on my strategies and I'll likely always work on them. And some days I'm better at them than others, right? Depending what's going on in my life. But here's the kicker. So if we as teachers are always learning and implementing new focus strategies, we should assume that students likely don't have any strategies yet. So I'm repeating this. We should assume that students likely don't have any focus strategies. Okay? We hear teachers say these types of things over and over again, that their biggest frustration when it comes to classroom management and academics are, and I'm literally quoting from a survey that we did a little while ago, teachers say things like students lack focus and problem-solving skills. So that's the hardest thing for them when it comes to classroom management and academics. Someone says students are off task, distracted, and not in the present moment. Student behaviors distract the class from valuable learning time. We also have heard, students are distracted by the technology, their phones, etc. So distracted students is a huge thing that us as teachers are constantly trying to manage in our classroom. And unfortunately, I hear it all the time. And this is something I've even said myself so many times because it's just so natural to say it. So saying things like, okay, everyone, it's time to focus on the project now when you're in front of the classroom, kind of explaining what you're going to do. And then this comes out. So it's time to focus on the project right now. And when a student is distracted or talking to another student, my classroom management strategy is to say something like, okay, stop chatting with Peter and focus on your work. But with time, I've just come to realize it's not very useful to say things like this to our students, right? Because the big question is, have our students ever been taught how to focus and to self-regulate for that matter? How can we expect them to focus on their work if they've never been taught how? That's the big question. But good news, it can make both our lives as teachers and our students' lives much easier if we teach them self-regulation and focus strategies in an explicit way. So to do that, we need to give students the opportunity to learn and reflect on what they personally need to be able to focus. Okay, not what their neighbor needs, what they personally need to be able to focus. A strategy that might work for one distracted student won't work for the next, just like us adults, right? Like for me, putting my phone far away works. For someone that might not work. Since we aren't in our students' bodies and we can't tell which distractions are the most intense for our students, although, okay, in parentheses here, we probably have somewhat of an idea, but we don't actually know because we're not in their brains and bodies. So the idea is that we need to give them the chance to discover what those distractions are for them. Plus, if students go through this process independently, this process of learning what comes up for them as distractions, things that distract them from focusing on a task, their work, a project, etc. So if we go through this process, we let them go through this process independently, they are more likely to develop their self-awareness when it comes to what distracts them, and then to make good decisions for themselves and their focus. Okay. And we can do this with all grades, K to 12. Okay. It'll be a slightly different conversation and experience, but we can do this with every single grade. Okay. So to do this distractions discovery, it's pretty simple. You can either follow a lesson plan that we created for you, okay, to start to end lesson plan, no prep lesson plan, that you can find at educalm.com/welcome. That's educalme.com/welcome. If you want it en français, in French, you can get it at educalm.com/bienvenue. Okay. Also, if you want it in French, but you go to the English side of the site, you'll still get the access to it. And when you sign up, you'll get access to both the French and English version. So it doesn't actually matter. But if you're wanting to kind of read the information all in French, go to educalm.com/bienvenue. In English, educalm.com/welcome. So this lesson plan includes a pre-teaching and post-teaching activity. It's got worksheets, posters for classroom decor, and even a mindful coloring sheet for students. So, and again, this is for kinder all the way to grade 12. And the link that I shared, the educalm.com/welcome or /bienvenue, this link also includes other free Educalm resources. So it's like our free library. There's tons of stuff there for you. So you can either just go and grab that lesson plan right now and dive right in. Okay, this easy to use, no prep lesson plan ready to go. Or you can just host it yourself. So we're going to talk about how you can do this distractions discovery with them. So you're simply going to get your students seated in a comfortable position, whatever that means for you. Often with younger grades, I like to do the crocodile pose. So they lay on the floor with their arms above their head and their forehead on their forearms. I think that makes sense, right? Whatever that means, whichever grades, seat them in a comfortable position or lay them down in a comfortable position, whatever. And invite them to close their eyes and to simply focus on their inhales and their exhales for a few minutes. Then, after the few minutes, ask them just to notice with curiosity if any distractions were competing for their attention while they were practicing focusing on their breaths. So ask them to notice what the distraction was and how it made them feel, and then give them a few moments to reflect on that. So it's as simple as that. However, I would kind of maybe do it a few times within a session, like, Kate, take a couple deep breaths, and after a couple minutes, ask them again with curiosity if any distractions were competing for their attention while they were trying to focus on their breaths. What were the distractions and how did it make them feel? Now, in the free focus lesson plan that you can get at educalm.com/welcome, there is a post-teaching activity where students will actually write this stuff down so that they don't forget. Okay, it makes it a little more ingrained, I guess. However, you do not need this post-teaching activity. The next thing you can do if you don't want to use that printable is just to have a classroom discussion. Okay. Have the discussion about what distractions came up for your students. And I'm just going to list off a few question ideas that you can use, which are also in the lesson plan at educalm.com/welcome, by the way. And I'm actually just reading them off the lesson plan right now. But questions you can ask them includes, what did you notice? So that's a simple one. How can you use what you learned for the rest of your day? Also, what was competing for your attention during the focus exercise? And what distractions came up for you during the exercise? Another question we can ask is, how can becoming aware of our distractions help you to support your focus? And what are things you can do to help yourself to focus? Last question I've got listed here is, how will you ensure that you use this new focus strategy next time you are distracted? And there's also a similar question in the post-activity printable where students come up with a strategy for them to focus better in the future whenever they have a task or anything they need to do where they need to focus. And it can be outside of school as well. So that's a pretty simple lesson, but oh my goodness, everything that can come out of this lesson long term is just so beneficial. But here's the deal, and I feel like you probably know what I'm about to say, but you can't just do this exercise once and expect students to learn and apply the new focus strategies that they've acquired and the new coping skills that they've acquired. This exercise needs to be repeated over and over and over again. If we want students to internalize these new strategies and start using them, we have to do this practice of discovering these distractions and coming up with ways of strategies to focus again, we need to repeat this exercise. Repetition is the key to success here. The more students discover their distractions and come up with focus strategies that will work for them, the more likely they are to actually apply these strategies. And the less classroom management strategies you'll need to apply in your classroom because students will regulate themselves more. Now, the awesome thing with this explicit lesson is that long term, every time you want your students to focus on a project or a task during the school day, you have such a good tool to refer back to. So instead of saying things like, please focus on your work, which caught myself saying that one too many times, we can say things instead like, which focus strategy will you apply during this work period? So you can ask them, you can tell them they have to come up with one strategy and share it with the class. Like, you can bring it up often. And because you have this lesson to refer back to, it makes it so much simpler. And when a student is off task, you can say things like, okay, what are the focus strategies that you've come up with? Which one can we apply in this moment? Right? It makes the conversation so much simpler and easier and intentional, right? It's much more efficient. So this lesson is a win-win for all members of the classroom. And this episode is coming out in August, and it is not by accident, because this is a really, really good lesson to really do at the beginning of the year, because then you can refer back to it all year, right? And repeating it at least for a couple weeks in those first however many weeks of school, because then you've got this tool in your tool belt that you can pull out anytime. So now you have everything you need to execute this lesson, okay? But if you want to create even more classroom engagement around teaching and learning about focus explicitly, we encourage you to download our free, easy-to-use social emotional learning lesson for K-12 classrooms that will teach your students focus strategies in a systematic and efficient way. And that's what we're all about. Everything has to be streamlined. So help your students to focus on their academic learning and increase their problem-solving skills by getting the focus lesson plan. You can get it at educalm.com/welcome, and that's educalme.com/welcome. If you are a French immersion, or a core French teacher, you can get the lesson plan at the same place, or you can go to educalm.com/bienvenue. So, one thing I do want to mention is that if you currently have the full Educalm membership, you actually have an entire unit dedicated to focus. The focus unit includes a lesson plan, an introductory video, a pre-teaching activity like the one I shared today in this episode. And the best part of the membership is that we actually do the lesson for you. So you get to participate instead of having to facilitate. So you won't have to tell your students, close your eyes, do this, blah, blah, blah. You'll actually just be able to join in, because you'll be listening to an audio that is explicitly teaching students how to notice distractions and to learn strategies for focus. So there are 5, 2, 5, and 10-minute options of audio guided mindfulness practices in the focus unit. And the audios are the core of the unit. Of course, everything else is optional. There are optional booklets for students where they represent what competes for their attention and what distracts them, and how they can help themselves to focus. So there's also a poster, a mindful coloring page, and at the end of the unit, there's also a personal reflection activity where students really dive deep into their strategies and how to apply them into their day-to-day life. This unit is super jam-packed and easy to use, okay? So if you are an EduCalm member, then now you have a really good idea of what's inside the focus unit. If you have not explored it already, then that is your exit ticket for today. And if not, your exit ticket for today is to go to educalm.com/welcome or educalm.com/bienvenue and get the full focus lesson plan and try it out with your students. And then see them make good decisions to support their focus and their well-being. And also let us know how it goes. Can't wait to hear all about it. Again, you can get it at educalm.com. That's EDUCALME/welcome. Again, thank you so much for being here. If you enjoyed the show, if you found these strategies, these focus strategies practical, please share the podcast with a teacher colleague. Thank you so much for being here. Have an awesome week.